Well, who doesn't like flowers, right? I mean, look at these beauties here next to me. This beautiful bouquet of daffodils, they came from right outside our house here in our daffodil patch. Perfect for spring. My husband clipped these for the beautiful Easter weekend. I mean, who really doesn't love these? And especially when you get them as gifts, right? Or just plant them all in the summertime, the spring and summer. But did you know that flowers actually have healing properties based on energy and vibration? And here to talk about that fascinating topic is my new friend, Caren Allen. Welcome, Caren, to Life by Randy.
Hi, Randy. Thank you.
You're welcome. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Caren, Caren's amazing. She is a certified natural health professional. She's also certified as a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. And so, if you know anything about me and Life by Randy, we love the functional medicine approach. And we see that functional medicine approach as through the lens of energy and frequency, because that's the vibration. That's the language of the universe. And so Caren is also the founder and president and CEO of Caren Balance, and all those links will be below for if anyone wants to get in touch with Caren and learn more and avail yourselves of her services. And one of the tools that she has in her toolbox is something called Bach flowers, or the Bach flower essences. And before we dive into that, Bach is spelled B-A-C-H. So we in America say Bach flowers via the composer. Actually, it's pronounced technically Bach, but for this show, we're gonna go with the American pronunciation of his name, and it's Dr. Edward Bach, Bach in the UK. He was a British physician and a homeopath. And in the 1930s, he started working with flowers and the dew, I believe, on the flower petals, and recognizing that that carried an energy or a frequency that actually is very healing for largely emotional pain, anxiety. And so we're here to unpackage that today. And so, Caren, how did you first discover this protocol for Bach flowers?
So I started working for the health food store in the year 2000, and that was where I first noticed it, or I first became introduced to it. And every health food store across the states will have the Bach flowers, specifically the rescue remedy, which a lot of people might be familiar with. So that was my first introduction to it, and it was really fascinating about it is that it works on the emotional level, and because it's vibrational, it's totally safe. So when you're learning about herbs are medicine, and that can affect your body and affect your organs and the way they work. Flower essences are literally just vibrational. So like you said, the dewdrop, it's imagine the flower in the morning, the dew has settled, and then the sun comes out. And the sun warms up that dewdrop, and the dew takes on the energy and essence of the flower or plant that it's laying on. And that's how gentle these remedies are. So Dr. Batch was pretty amazing. He was highly intuitive. And some people back then might have thought he was strange because he preferred to walk among the flowers than live in the big city and be a prominent physician, which he was. And so he was bored by social circles and the whole thing he had to do. And he was literally living in the heart of the Industrial Revolution at that time. But he was a country boy at heart, and he missed the flowers and he missed the countryside. And so he realized in his practice that his patients weren't getting any better because they were holding on to these negative emotional behaviors and patterns of thinking and behaving. And so until he could break through those preset sort of behavioral things that we do, these negative states, you can't have physical healing. And so he went back to the countryside. Yeah, it was just really, it's a cool story. And then he went back to the countryside and he intuited which flowers would go with which certain personalities. And once he came up with 38 of them, and he also applied them to his friend circles and also his patients in his practice. And lo and behold, they started to heal physically when they were able to break down those emotional barriers.
We know that to be true, and the Life by Randy community knows that to be true. this is a different take on that which we've explored thus far.
Because it works on an energetic level, it actually doesn't even have to be ingested, which is something I wanted to talk about today too. You can just have it sort of in your aura and it still works. But no, it's classified as a homeopathic because it's energetic. And so like you could take echinacea and herb, and that stimulates your immune system to do something. So that's something you probably don't want to do all the time, right? But something like the rescue remedy, or I use impatience a lot. This is just a single remedy of impatience, literally gives you patience. If you use that, it's literally just making your vibration more balanced. So it doesn't affect your organs. Like there's no reason why you needed to stop using it. And most people, when you feel out of balance, when you're vibrate, I picture it like a pendulum on a clock too. So when our emotions are always in flux. We're always going to have good days and bad days. And that's just being human. That's fine. And so most of us can deal with that on a regular basis. However, if you feel like that pendulum is stuck in that negative vibrational pattern of, man, I just can't get past this, I want to move forward and I'm just stuck, then you can use these flowers throughout the day, 3-4 times a day, and it helps to shake up that energy. And sometimes that swing to the other side can be a little bit wide at first until you get that nice little even keel. So in my experience in using the flowers for my own health, I would make a formula for myself that would be in like a 1 ounce tincture bottle, which I don't have an example of that here. And it's supposed to last about 3 to 4 weeks if you use it 4 times a day. Well, I never finished a bottle because I would be using it several times a day and then I wouldn't feel like I needed it, or I would just forget about it until I feel like, oh gosh, what's really happening? Oh yeah, I need my flowers. And then I'll go back and reach for the flowers, and it just helps you move forward.
So now when you say you reach for the flowers, what you really mean literally is you're not reaching for the flowers. You're reaching for a bottle that, do you have an example there? You reach for a bottle that is infused with the dew or the water. That's what it is. So it's a spray?
Yeah. So, well, this one's a spray. This is one of the things I use. This is an example of a single remedy that came from the Bach Institute in England, which is where the mother tinctures still are. So the Nelson family, it's you'll see on the labels, they'll say like Nelson Bach. Well, Nelson is a homeopathic brand that's been around for a very long time in England. And the Nelson family was friends with Dr. Bach, Dr. Bach. And anyway, so when he came up with all these remedies, he went to them to make them into homeopathic, add some brandy as a preservative, because a dewdrop will go moldy, right? So you need to add a little bit of alcohol there to preserve it. And then these mother tinctures are still in existence in the Bach Institute in England to this day. So everything you see in the bottles in the States that say Dr. Bach on it, Dr. Bach, will be from that original mother tincture.
Okay, so what's a mother tincture? Is it like the original sourdough of a particular yeast that they keep alive and going and working off of, or is that similar?
I believe so. I think they have those flowers growing there, and then they either keep making it or it never goes away because it's energy. So like homeopathics never go away either. Like you can, if you come across pellets from an old homeopathic kit from the 1800s, they're still viable because it's energy. You have to succuss it, they call it, to wake it up. So you just tap the bottom of the bottle and it wakes up the energy if it's been sitting for a long time. And that's true with the flowers too. So you just wake it up and then it's ready to go. And it will always work.
Let's back up a little bit and explore homeopathy or homeopathic remedies. What exactly is that, and how is it different than functional medicine? I know they're different. So I was just doing some quick research on homeopathy because I'm really not familiar with that. And it essentially says what I firmly believe and experience with my own cancer journey. And if you're not familiar with that story, I healed from stage 4 cancer within 5 months without really largely through energy and frequency. And you could find that more at my story on lifebyrandy.com if you're not familiar. But homeopathy, I've read, acknowledges the body's ability to self-heal. So that's the fundamental tenet, yes,
Yes.
of homeopathy. Okay, so let's take that further. What does that mean? So these are the tools in the homeopathic toolbox are natural remedies found in nature. Yes?
Yes. So the definition of a homeopathic is the original material that they utilize, excuse me, is either a plant or a mineral, sometimes an animal tissue, sometimes it's a glandular. And so what they'll do in, like, if anybody's seen like a homeopathic remedy, it'll say 6X on it, or 12X, or 30C, something like that. And so just to give you an example, if it's an X, just like the Roman numerals, X means 10, C means 100. So they would take the original plant material, and I'm just going to say poison ivy because that's one that we can all relate to. So the original plant material is poison ivy. And then they'll take one drop, one part poison ivy to 9 parts solution, which is, this is going to be in an X strength, I guess you would call it. So they would take 1 part plant material, 9 part solution, and then they would succuss it. They'd add it together, they'd succuss it. Then they would take 1 drop of that, dilute it with 9 part solution again, succuss it, take 1 part of that, 1 drop of that, dilute it with 9 part solution, do it again. And if they do that 6 times, it's called a 6X. If they do it 30 times, it's called a 30X.
Okay.
If they do it, if it's a 30C, they do that 30 times, only it was 99 parts solution rather than 9 parts. So if you can imagine what would happen to that original material of the plant after so many dilutions, it wouldn't exist anymore. So you won't have a reaction to the poison ivy itself because the original plant material is no longer there, but the energy of it is expounding in this. Every time you succuss it and dilute it, essentially it gets stronger. So when you take it in, your body can recognize it without having a reaction to it. So now we can be exposed to these things without having a harsh reaction, like an allergic poison ivy reaction.
So how does it get stronger as it goes forward?
It's energy.
Really?
Yeah. So energetically, it works on a really deep sort of cellular level. And again, it's not affecting the way the organs are functioning. It's energetically getting in there so that the body's like, oh, poison ivy, no big deal. I know what this is now. So when you're in nature pulling up your weeds and you get into contact with poison ivy, you're not going to have this strong reaction because your body has already been used to this. It already knows what it is. And so homeopathics will work to heal that at the same time too. So when people come in with a massive poison ivy outbreak, they'll take a homeopathic for poison ivy, and it helps to clean it up from the inside out. So your body isn't having this harsh reaction anymore. It's just acceptance and healing.
That's so beautiful. So is there something for poison ivy? Is that's a real thing?
Yeah, there is.
I need one for my husband.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year. Wow.
And Dr. Bach actually identified a flower too for skin conditions. It's called crab apple. And so when people have a lot of like skin kind of irritations or like blemishes and things that maybe they would think are gross, something like that, if they have a negative attachment to this, oh, my skin is so gross kind of thing, crab apple can really help to calm that down. Yeah. And then there's beech, which is another flower for intolerance. And so for an intolerant personality type, somebody that just can't stand anything or anybody, they're literally intolerant. If they have severe allergic reactions, that's an intolerance too. So in that case, the beech flower could work for either of those types.
There are 38 flowers that Dr. Bach has identified.
Yes.
And how do you know how we came up with these 38? Are they the 38 all-stars or the 38 that span the gamut of all possible kind of emotional issues, including intolerance and allergies?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I guess he just one at a time sort of started applying these things. And when he got to the last one, he knew he was done. So basically, all of the 38 flowers will cover every single negative emotional state that a human can have, which seems wild, but it's easier to understand it sort of in a category. So some of the people that took his work after that, well, and the other exciting thing, I'm jumping around a little bit, but he was so passionate about how effective this healing modality was that he knew that nature had the answers. We just have to listen, right? You know this. So as
Yes.
long as we're listening and this energy is doing what it does, nature can heal. And so because of that, he didn't want, this was a thing that was working for people. And he didn't want his notes, all of his case studies, all of his notes, all of his research, basically everything that led him up to saying, aha, I have it. He didn't want that to be the focus moving forward. So after he died, and he died at a young age, he was only 50 years old, and he destroyed all of his notes, all of his case files, everything, because he knew people know what this is, they know how to use it, just take it from there. Like, he wasn't about study all my old case notes, because that doesn't matter. It matters what's right in front of you right now, and who's in front of you right now, and how this flower is going to work. So I think that was pretty neat. And there were several people that took up his research after he passed, and then they came up with other ways to use the flowers. So there was another team of people that came up with, this is one of my favorite books. It's kind of cool. It's the body mapping for Bach. And so basically, I don't know, you have to be highly intuitive and tuned in to know what flower works for this, but there's parts on our body, like literally they mapped out every single inch of your body, and that if there's a pain there, for example, you can go to the book, and I've done this several times, go to the book and say, well, what emotional attachment could that be? And sometimes that's it. I mean, sometimes that's, you add, like your knee, for example, the right knee has to do with change and transitions. And so this true story, a woman fell and hurt her knee very badly. At the same time, she was going through a lot of turmoil, divorce, job, something major in her life. And the knee wouldn't heal until they addressed that. They said, okay, knee is related to this. Do you think you're having issues in this emotionally? Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't want my whole life to be upended. And so when you heal the emotional part of that, then the knee gets better.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
So this isn't Dr. Bach's work, but it's work that this is what he encouraged. He encouraged people to take his work and run with it. And so when I was learning about the flowers too, the instructor I had at the time was a massage therapist. And she said, sometimes this energy stuff is a little woo-woo for people, and they don't really believe that. How could a dewdrop, heal my grief? It seems a little out there. But she said what she would do in her practice is she would say, well, what hurts? What's going on with your body? Because she's a massage therapist, and that's what they ask. Mm-hmm. And then she would make a massage cream with the flower that correlated with just knowing them a little bit, or knowing what their pains were. And then she would do what she does as a massage therapist, and then they would have a conversation afterward. And then that would be what she'd be working on, is the emotional thing attached to that. And once people could feel the physical relief from it, they were more open to talk about the emotional part.
Wow. Well, and my understanding and personal experience is trapped trauma in the body. Yeah. It'll gravitate to a place where your body is trying to communicate with you and tell you your source of trauma. Mm-hmm. Or tell you your source of emotional pain. Yeah. And so my go-to book, my first go-to book, and that might be my second, is the classic Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, where it has the list of symptoms and then what really is the emotion attached to that's giving you that symptom, and then an affirmation, a way to start to heal yourself. And it is so much of intention, isn't it? Yes. It's an awareness, and then intention is so powerful. Mm-hmm. And this is the roadmap, though, to the particular frequencies of the flower, the essence of the flower, mm-hmm. matching up to heal, to actually release that trapped trauma or that emotional block that's manifesting either in your heart or your knee or your spine. I know spinal issues oftentimes are having an issue of the foundations of your life, or so our bodies are so brilliantly designed, and they're always communicating with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what about, let's say you have lost your loved one and you are experiencing so much grief. Is there a flower essence for that? And what would that look like? I know that a couple of my dear friends, my sorority sisters, they've lost their husbands. They're experiencing that kind of loss and trauma. What kind of flower essence would be helpful for them?
Well, the number one go-to there would be the Star of Bethlehem, which already just sounds beautiful, right? Like it's kind of a Jesus flower, and it's a beautiful flower in nature too. This tiny white little, just beautiful Star of Bethlehem. But that one is the one for all shock and trauma and deep emotional grief. Anything that hits your heart really hard. Star of Bethlehem is good for that. And so
gives me chills.
It's beautiful. It's one of my favorites. And this isn't just for like current shock and trauma. This can go back to when something happened as a child. I mean, it's just anything that hits your heart really hard.
Yeah.
Is really good for that. And Rescue Remedy is a combination of 5 of the flowers that it's kind of like everybody's Bach flower 911, basically. So there's 5 flowers in here for your emergency situations. And this one is one that I point out when I talk to people about having deep emotional grief, because the 5 flowers that are in here are the Star of Bethlehem is in there. There's one called Cherry Plum, which is excellent for issues of control. When you've lost control, you can't control when your loved one dies. That's a horrible thing. There's one for Rock Rose is in there, which is for paralyzing terror, because sometimes you just don't know what to do. Like you're stopped in your tracks and can't move. And there's one for impatience is in there, which is for impatience. So that's an easy one to remember. Because sometimes you get frustrated about things, you maybe you're angry about things. Impatience is very much an anger emotion. So that's a good one to have in there too. And then the last one is clematis. Clematis is for the daydreamer, the person that has their head in the clouds all the time. And when you're in a situation of grief or trauma, you don't know where your head is. It's all over the place. And so clematis just helps you kind of stay focused. So those 5 together are pretty powerful, bring you back to earth. There's things I need to do. I've got to get through my day, kind of. It helps.
Wow. That sounds powerful. Yeah. Now, are there any other ones that, thank you. Are there any other ones that are a composite of the other flowers as well?
Only here we go. So this is called Rescue Sleep. And this is the Rescue Remedy 5 flowers, original 5 flowers with one more added. And the one that they added to the Sleep Remedy is white chestnut, which is excellent for the brain that won't shut up. So if somebody's got a busy brain, and a lot of times that'll happen with post-traumatic stress, or maybe you've had a conversation or an argument with a loved one and you just can't get those words out of your head, like a song that gets stuck in your head, anything that's just repeating. And especially when you're laying there awake at night and your brain just won't shut off. Why am I not asleep yet? I don't know. And you keep having this, it just won't stop. So it can be used during the day too. I tell people that. So it's not a sedative like a sleep aid, but it's one that quiets the mind so that the body can quiet and fall asleep. So that's pretty cool. And then on the other end of the spectrum, they make this is called Rescue Energy. And so this is the Rescue Remedy 5 flowers plus olive. And olive, the way I remember olive and what it does is in my mind, I call it out of live. So basically olive is when you are just flat out exhausted. You've got nothing left in the tank. What you really need is about 2 solid weeks of sleep to repair and rebuild and just shut off the world. And not a lot of us can do that. So olive is for maybe following a very lengthy illness where you've been a caretaker for a long time, or watching somebody who is sick, those kind of things that just take everything out of you, like physically you've got nothing. So that's what this is. This is the rescue remedy with all those 5 beautiful flowers plus olive to give you more energy, more life, so you can keep functioning.
So Caren, you're showing different bottles and
Yes.
things. So tell us what the modalities are of delivery. How do you what so is that a dropper or it looks like a roll-on? So tell us
Yeah.
if they're droppers, sprays, how do you
Yes.
actually do this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to do it because it's been around for about 100 years now, almost 100 years. The dropper is pretty easy. So you just take drops, 3 or 4 drops in your water or beverage, any beverage, it doesn't matter. So it's different than an herbal in that way because it's energetic, nothing can interfere or interact with it as far as dulling its energy, basically. So you can put these drops in your water 3 or 4 times a day. And the way I explain it to people is because we're talking about energy. So if you just do it once in the morning, well, what's happening at noon? What if you're dipping down again? So if you use it throughout the day, you're going to keep that vibration higher throughout the day. And that's where more powerful healing can happen a little bit faster. So doing it 4 times a day for 3 to 4 weeks will really help to shift that swing. So it comes in a dropper like that. It comes in a spray like this, which is easy and convenient. You can just kind of spray it under your tongue. Or it comes in a lozenge, which is nice because these have a little alcohol in there as a preservative. So for recovering alcoholics, for example, they don't want to taste any kind of alcohol. So the lozenge would be an excellent thing to do. And it still works perfectly fine. And there's also, what else do they do? They make a gummy, because everybody makes a gummy for everything now. So
Right.
there's a rescue gummy. And this liquid I showed you, this sprayer,
Yeah.
this is something I recently started to make for myself. And now I'm making it for other people. So in my experience, whenever I feel like I need my flowers again, just to get some balance back, I would make myself a tincture. I would, focus on all 38 different flowers and see what I really needed. What am I really feeling? And I've made several different formulas for myself over the years because our emotions change, our emotional states change. It's never going to be the same from one, time to the next. So what I noticed though with myself was I was making these blends in a little 1 ounce dropper bottle. And I'd carry it around with me and I'd put it in my water and then I'd get busy and then I wouldn't. And then a couple of days it would go by and either I was using it regularly and I didn't need it anymore, or I wasn't using it regularly enough and I just gave up on it because I don't have time for that. We all get in that mindset. Impatience is one of my healing flowers, by the way. Like I need patience in my life. So, then I decided, well, I like to spray my face like a toner, toner in the morning, spray your skin. And so why don't I just put my flowers in a spray bottle? And then I'll add a couple of essential oils in there because I like how that smells. And then I'll put a couple of crystals in the bottom because we have these tiny little crystals at the health food store, like rose quartz and amethyst and green aventurine, citrine, these crystals that are really great. And that just amplifies the energy that's already in there. And it's in a glass bottle, and the water I use is natural spring water that's been bottled in glass, so it still carries its vibration as well. So when you mix your own, that's another point I want to make. If you mix your own, you want to make sure you're using spring water and glass because it is vibrational. So distilled water doesn't have any energy to it, but spring water does. I'll tell you too, the sprayer for me works really well because I can just carry this with me and spray myself all day long, every day. And that was working well for me. And then I made these as gifts for people about a year ago, Christmas. I was making them as gifts. And then people said, oh my gosh, these are wonderful. Keep making them. And then I made them and I sell them at the store already made up. And so there's different circumstances. So these are, if it resonates with you when you're reading it and you smell it and you like it, then that is going to be the one that helps to soothe whatever's happening with you. Or I can have a conversation with somebody. We can have a consultation and talk about what's really going on. And then because I know these flowers really well, I'll be making a list of what I think could be helpful. And then we'll talk about that. And I'll say, how does this resonate with you? Does this sound like something that would work? And then I can customize that. And I can make it in a sprayer like that. Or I can make it in a 1 ounce dropper tincture if it's easier for somebody to just add it to their water or food.
Oh, I love that. So, Caren, what are those called? So, what you're doing, you're building on Dr. Batch's dream and his intention, right, of taking his work and springboarding from there and customizing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well,
And
a lot of people, I've studied it a lot and I've used it a lot. And the biggest draw for me was that you just can't go wrong. I mean, nobody can ever get hurt trying this.
right, right.
And it feels like when you do use it, when you're stuck in a pattern, and when you use it 3 to 4 times a day for at least a week or two or longer if you need to, you suddenly feel like you're on the other side of therapy without having to rehash it all. Because, we
Mm,
don't want to stir it all up again, whatever it was that got you there. You know what got you there. And just talking about it brings you back there sometimes. And
yes.
so that's what I really love about this is like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to hit this and
Transmute it.
right, right, right. Yeah, transmute it. That's exactly what it does. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that because what you're doing is you're incorporating other similar modalities. And so when I was doing a little research, I saw that their flower essences are different than essential oils.
Yes.
And so essential oils is concentrated liquids of plant compounds,
Yes.
whereas flower essences come from the flowers, the leaves, the bark, the fruit that's
Yeah.
gathered together and goes through a some kind of process of the spring water for the dew, right? And taking that liquid from that process.
Mm-hmm.
But you also are adding in the energies of the crystals. I wore for this episode my uh, amethyst ring, a natural amethyst I got when I was at one of my favorite spas in Sedona, outside of Sedona, Arizona,
Awesome.
Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I've learned, has measurable frequencies and energies, and this is all natural. It's some might say mystical, but it's part of our nature, and we have been somewhat conditioned to roll our eyes at that or use woo woo stuff, and yet it has energy and frequency. Everything has energy and frequency, including this laptop here and the table that's put on it. And so I think this is an awakening process that's happening all across the globe more and more as many of us are pulling away from Western medicine, big pharma, and saying, gosh, there's got to be something else. I want to be out in nature more. One of my stepdaughters absolutely loves plants and flowers, and it sounds like she would resonate very well, or would have resonated very well with Dr. Batch, because she just wants to live out in nature and amongst the plants and flowers. And so this episode is also for her,
That's
Alicia.
really
So
exciting.
yeah, as she can, step into this and follow her passion and be spurred on by her passion for the flowers, and then help herself and then help others to have this great experience having it helped you. Because once you go through that energetic experience, as I did, coming out of a stage 4 cancer diagnosis with no cure and palliative care only, that was recommended by the world renowned Cleveland Clinic, within 5 months, the breast tumor is gone, and everything that had filled my body and bones with cancer is gone. It's magical. And if you're left the same, you're not learning your lesson, right? Or lessons. And so I am so fascinated and hungry for this kind of knowledge, and I know the LBR community is as well. And so this I really want to put in the links below how our viewers can reach you and how they can even purchase your special concoctions. Do they have the Caren Balance name on them? Uh,
They actually don't. I probably should do that. I made up the labels telling you exactly what's in it, which crystals are used, which flower essences are used, what I call it. This is the sleepy dream, for example, and then what the positive potential of those flowers are. Because when you make your own bottle, you never want to put the negative words on there. It could because this is all vibrational. So we focus on the positive potential of it. So, for example, Mimulus is for fear. Well, I don't even want to say fearlessness. I want to say courage.
Beautiful.
Because it's the right word. That's the word. That's the vibration we want, is courage. This one doesn't have that in there, but this has.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And the
Yes.
other neat thing is I call these vibrational aura sprays, because they literally just have to be around you in order to do their work, which is really nice too. I think you said something earlier about intention. So I just want to give you an example. When I was first learning about this rescue remedy, because this is everybody's emergency 911 kind of a thing, imagine you are the first on the scene of an accident. You witnessed a car accident right in front of you. And so you pull over and you approach the car and you've got your rescue remedy with you. Take your rescue remedy out of the bottle, put it on your hands, put some drops on your hands. And now you can approach the person in the car who's just been in this accident. Lightly put your hand on their shoulder or whatever arm, whatever's not invasive, and tell them help is on the way. Everything's okay. You're there. Everything's going to be okay. You are now transferring this calming energy from your hands to their aura. So they didn't ask permission for that. And they don't have the intention of this woman's going to put her hands on me and I'm going to, feel better. And you might not even get that opportunity, but that's how they can work, is they can just be calming for people, even when they don't know it.
So it's transferable. Energy is transferable. We all feel energy. We all give off energy. And so what you're saying is that with your intention and with the particular energy and frequency already in you and on your hands, you can actually transfer that with your intention. Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, and isn't that prayer that, some people call it prayer, right? But that setting that intention of healing and co-creating with the divine to reach your desired end goal. That's
and
beautiful.
they say with the flowers too that it's not really okay to like dose somebody without their permission. But if you're doing something like that with loving intention, as long as it's with loving intention and not because I need to change his personality, put some drops in there, but because you're, oh my gosh, let me soothe you here. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah. Good caveat. You don't want to be putting drops in your friends or your spouse's drinks behind their back.
I do have a funny story about that though. I know a woman whose husband retired. And then all of a sudden he was just home all the time and they had to learn how to live together. And she said he was just barking at her left and right. He just didn't know what to do with himself. He didn't know why she was in the house. It was just a mess. And she's like, this is ridiculous. He's got to calm down. And so she was taking the rescue remedy and putting it in his coffee. She would make the coffee every morning and then she'd give him the coffee. And after some time went by, I asked her how that was working. And she said, it's working great. In fact, he told me that he's feeling so much better and so much calmer. So I told him what I'd been doing and he was able to get off of his blood pressure medication because he was calmer. And now he does it himself on purpose because he likes that calmness.
That right?
Yeah.
Which solution was that? Which flower was that for the high blood pressure?
That was the combination of the rescue remedy.
Oh, so that's the classic rescue remedy.
Mm-hmm. Those are the 5 flowers that'll calm it down. 5. Because what I would do in his circumstance is if I were going to make a formula for him, I would want to have a conversation with him first, like find out, okay, what is it that is driving you nuts? Is it, have you lost control because you don't have a job to go to anymore? That could be a thing. Is it you're a workhorse and all of a sudden, if you don't go to work out of duty, because there's a flower for that too, people that just show up every day, even though they really need to rest, that's oak. And so if they keep showing up, was it that kind of a thing? And so I would have to have like a one-on-one conversation with him to find out exactly what he's feeling in order to make a specific formula for him. But sometimes the rescue remedy is enough for people that don't really want to dig that deep or are just having a moment right now and it'll pass, you have this stressful situation coming up this weekend, but after that, it'll be fine. Rescue remedy will get you through that.
So walk us through that and how can we get access to not only your special solutions, which would be the Bach flower essence, the essential oils and crystals, but if we wanted to go with the rescue remedy or any other ones, I think it sounds like we would need some kind of consult to say, these are my issues, or I don't even know what my exact issues are.
Right.
Let's kind of talk and you could pull it out of us. What does that look like, Caren? So in a practical sense, when someone wants to start on this regimen or protocol.
Sure. Just talk to me. I'm at the health food store every day, Tuesday through Saturday. I'm not there on Mondays. Yeah, and we can just make an appointment. And the ones that are already on the shelf are selling for $15. But if you want your own customized for $50, we could sit down for an hour, and I could make it as a spray like that, or I could make it as a liquid tincture if that's preferable.
Great. Well, now for those of the viewers, because I've got viewers all over the country who aren't near Sandusky, Ohio, how do they get in touch with you for that? And I'm sure you could make it and ship them out, but what does that look like?
Sure. Well, my website, you could contact me that way, or my email, which you'll be putting up a link there, or
I will.
Yeah. So so I've been working for the health food store full time since 2000. It's been several years. I love it there. And then in 2017, when I graduated nutritional therapy school, is when I started my side business called Caren Balance. My name is spelled with a C. So it was just a natural care and balance. And I'm a Libra, and I'm all about balance, and everything about life is about balance, right? I mean, every single system in our body, everything. So, so that's the name of my little business. And I do consultations, and I run, like sugar detox groups, and I speak a lot. So any of that kind of stuff. And actually,
you do the detox foot bath.
In the detox foot bath, that's right. And I will be doing that in Lakeside, by the way. I just found out that that I am free on Monday mornings to do foot baths in Lakeside.
Awesome.
I know.
At the Lakeside Salon and Spa, the Lakeside Chautauqua in Northern Ohio.
Yep.
Wonderful, Caren.
But actually, just this past week, a woman came in looking for about 4 or 5 different individual flowers. So she was already told by another practitioner the flowers that she needed and the combination she needed to make for herself. And so when somebody orders these alone from the health food store, we can get them, but they're about $19 a piece. And she needed about 5 of those. And then I told her, I said, well, I have a kit. If you know what you want, I can just make a formula for you. And that was really easy. She literally just handed me a list and said, I need one combination like this, and I need another one like this, and then make me 3 bottles of each, because they're going to use it for a while. And so in that case, it was just because it was she told me what she needed. We didn't need to have a big consultation or anything. So something like that I could do for $20 a bottle, either, the spray or the liquid. So I'm pretty easy to work with.
You are. Yeah, you're delightful. And so this work has been going on, or Dr. Batch's work has been going on for over almost 100 years now, from the 1930s. So there's got to be something to it, and I'm sure there would be skeptics, and but it's a journey, and if you resonate with it, you know that it's the thing for you.
Can I tell you one more quick little story that's pretty fun?
Absolutely can. Sure.
Okay, so so this is the lozenge, like I told you, and one of the flowers that's in the rescue, this is the rescue remedy, the 5 flowers again, and one of those flowers is cherry plum for control, like loss of control, or people that maybe tend to take on too much control and they need to let go a little bit. So one of my instructors told us the story about she does muscle testing. People put their arm out and they do the muscle test, and then she tests these parts all over the body. So a woman was going to her and brought her husband one time. And Elaine, the instructor, is this tiny little woman, very petite. And the husband was very skeptical. He came in arms crossed, just like, you're not going to tell me anything, kind of attitude. And the wife was like, oh, just give it a try. And so, so Elaine, the practitioner, she wanted to show him. He's like, well, what's this all about? And like I said, this real closed attitude. And so he put his arm out and looking at her like she's this tiny little woman. She couldn't possibly be able to move my arm. And she couldn't. And she's like, okay, he's got a block. Like he's blocking her, like literally emotionally, like you're not going to move me kind of attitude. And then she said, would you like a mint? And she handed him a mint. He's like, okay, took a mint. And then she said, let me try this again. And then he put his arm out again. She pushed it right down. And he was like, whoa, what's that? And so then she told him, she said, this is energy. This is, this is how this works. And so that cherry plum that was in the rescue remedy was enough to let him let his guard down so he could allow things to happen. One of the other things that you'll find when you look into Dr. Batch's work is the 12 healers. And so of the 38 flowers, he identified 12 of them as being our root healers. And so they also correlate with the 12 zodiac signs, which somebody else did that later. So for example, I'm a Libra. Scleranthus is the Libra flower, the one that's associated with that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the one that I need for all the healing, because Scleranthus is the one for the person that can't make a decision. You know, the vacillator, the one that's like, well, maybe, no, I can't, you know, like, and I do that a lot. But when I'm way out of balance is when I grab my Scleranthus, and then it just kind of helps to balance things out. But so that's really interesting too. And in his work, when you make a formula, you want to put a healer in the formula, at least one of them. And sometimes it won't be like, I believe my true healer is impatience, which is another one of the 12 healers. It's not the Scleranthus, which goes with my birth sign, but it's impatience, because this is what I find to be my biggest issue. So if I can put that in all of my tinctures and just walk through life with a little more patience, you know, then everything gets a lot better.
And it's a lot more balanced, right?
It's always about balance. Yeah. And so when somebody's really stuck or really kind of closed-minded, and not even closed-minded, but just like, I don't know what I need. It's like, well, when were you born? You know, you can kind of maybe dig at that a little bit and say, oh, okay, you're a Capricorn. So for example, Capricorn is a worrywart. I have people in my family that are Capricorn, and they are worrywarts. Like, they're always worried about something. And that's a mimulus flower. That's the one for fear, the very specific worry and fear type things. And so it just kind of gives you a roadmap to something to sort of look at. And it doesn't have to be a be all end all, because as humans, we are all so uniquely different, and our situations are different, and the way we handle the situations are different. So there's never like one way to be with Bach. It's like that's why I love the conversation part of it. If somebody wants one very specifically made for them, we have to have a conversation. And I don't need to know what happened to put you in the place that you are. I just need to know, how are you feeling? Like, what emotionally is going through your mind that we can help to balance out. And then I'll take a few notes, and then I'll say, this is what came up in my mind. What do you think about that on a scale of 1 to 5? How does that resonate? And sometimes it's like a yes, I'm all the way 5. And sometimes it's a no, not really. It's like, okay, well, let's look at this one. And so we can get very specific. And usually in a blend, a mixture, you don't want to put more than 5 to 7 different flowers in there. And you wouldn't need to, because it really just takes a few of them to get things going. And then after a few weeks, that may change. You may be like, well, I'm okay in that area, but now this came up, which can happen. Okay, well, let's add another flower to that. So if somebody does get a customized formula from me, I encourage them to call me back when it's done and say, did anything come up? Do you want to tweak that a little bit? And then I'll make another one for them, like complimentary, just to and that's never happened. Actually, nobody's ever come back for a second one. So I think, and I've noticed in my own experience too, when I'm hitting it hard like that, when I am taking it, 4 times a day for 2 weeks or so, it's better. I'm fine. And then I forget that I have them and I need them.
Wow.
Until I need them again.
That's so beautiful, Caren. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Final thoughts, Caren?
It's confusing in nutrition. There's so many different things you can do. And when you said like trying to understand the difference between an essential oil and a flower essence. Yeah. So the essential oil is literally the oil within so for rose, for example, so if you take a bunch of rose petals and you squeeze them really, really hard, you get 1 drop of essential oil. That's why rose, because roses are, expensive. And so that's an essential oil, a drop of rose. It's highly concentrated. So it's this highly concentrated oil from the rose. Now, if you were going to make a flower essence from rose, and people do this, they will take flower petals in spring water in a glass bowl. So again, you want to have high vibrational water in bowl, and then you put it in the sun, and you leave these fresh flower petals in this glass bowl in spring water in the sun, let the sun warm it up all day. And then you take the petals out of there and you're left with rose water.
Okay.
And this
Beautiful.
is the essence of rose. And so I love how you introduced this interview with the flowers, because the flowers make you feel good. And who doesn't feel good when somebody gives you flowers? That's the vibrational, loving gift of flowers. And everybody knows what rose is. And rose
Yes.
is one of the highest vibrations in the plant world, I believe. And
Yes.
so that's
Yes.
pretty cool. And then everybody knows what it is.
It resonates at the frequency of love, which is in the 500 level of hertz, which is on the hertz scale. So yes, that's why it's the flower of love, and given on Valentine's Day and for other
Mhm.
tokens of that kind of love.
My instructor, one of them for the Bach flowers, she loved pansies. And so she also said, and this makes sense too. So when you're in nature and there's a flower that you have that just makes you feel so good, it's in your garden, it grows every year. Maybe it was your grandmother's original flower or something like that, something that just really resonates with you personally. You can make a tincture out of that. I mean, you can, make a water from that, and it still has a vibration and it makes you feel so good in nature. Why wouldn't it work when you were internalizing it too, or just having it in your aura? So you can definitely do that.
And you can even add an essential oil if you like, right? And just play around and see what makes you happy.
It's good.
Thank you for sharing. This has been just delightful and so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I wanted to close on a quote by Dr. Batch that I just loved.
Okay.
This is from time immemorial. It has been known that providential means has placed in nature the prevention and cure of diseases by means of divinely enriched herbs, plants, and trees. And so he was so tuned in, right, to the providence that's created it all and the providential means by which all things are available to us in nature. And it's incumbent upon us to open our minds and to learn and be open to receive all the beauty that nature offers us to heal all kinds of diseases and emotional pains, right?
Definitely.